So we're gonna listen to what was being said, and we'll see. We'll judge. Okay, we'll judge. We'll see if it was so horrible, and we'll see maybe a certain person's community was right. Maybe there's no big deal. Maybe there's nothing to get your panties in a twist in this whole thing. It's all cool. We'll see in a moment. We shall see in a moment.
If you want to consider a genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people, they have genocide.
By the way, that's not what genocide is defined as. Genocide is not just a systematic. What did he say here?
Have genocide built into Sharia law. Group of people, they have systematic killing of a group of people.
That's not how you define genocide, okay? A systematic killing of a group of people. Because by that logic, any country that has the death sentence in its law, in its criminal code, performs a genocide of criminals. Because it's a systematic killing of criminals who are sentenced to death. So, I don't know. It's not even how we define genocide. It's like genocide is the killing of... Genocide doesn't even have to involve killing, to be honest. Like, genocide is the intent, or rather, it's the moving forward and enacting the intent of destroying a group of people in whole or in part. Right? So, no, that's not how we even define genocide. So we're starting on the wrong footing here. We're starting from the footing of misunderstanding what a genocide fundamentally is, which is never a good sign. It's never a good sign when someone comments on something they don't understand.
They have genocide built into Sharia law.
I have no clue what that means. I have no clue what it means to have genocide built into Sharia law.
Right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws.
I have no clue what that means. I have no clue what the statement they have genocide baked into their laws mean.
Are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people. It's not even a question. It's crazy that people don't see it that way.
It's crazy that people don't think that there are certain groups of people that are just inferior and deserve to be genocided. It's just crazy that people don't see it that way. Wow.
They'd be doing the same thing.
You could have... I hate to be this person, but you can actually use this argument for Nazi Germany. Oh, those Jewish people, they're like... they do it the same to as Germans if they could. They're like different from us. They have their own evil laws, etc. They're destroying Germany from within, you see.
And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons. But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing.
And therefore, they deserve to be... By that logic, Nazi Germany should have been genocided, according to Asmongold.
That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture that is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values.
You can even not like a particular culture. It doesn't mean that every single person that is born into that quote-unquote culture deserves to be genocided. That's a very weird thing to say. It's a very weird sort of stance to
stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways. It is that simple. No.
Is it that simple?
I don't feel bad for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I don't care. I don't.
So as long as the takeaway here is, as long as you see a culture as inferior, it is okay to genocide people that are a part of it. Thank you. That's the takeaway, I guess. So we started with watching this. Okay. And now this has triggered a reaction from one creator, Hasan Piker. Okay. So we're gonna go now. We're gonna move on now. And we're gonna watch a debate of Asmongold and Hasan Piker on these statements. A slightly less awful person. Listen, just because we watch a debate, it doesn't mean we need to root for any particular person debating. Damn. Alright, let's go. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna comment on it in real time. Are you excited? People like this guy and your husband who talk all this greater culture BS would never defend their country in a war or fight for anything actually. Well, you know, it happens. It happens. Three-hour debate? Lucy, if only your hubby had such great takes on Palestine as you do. You know, this just happens in marriage sometimes. Sometimes the other half is just more moral than the other half. Sometimes it just happens. One half just sucks out all the morality that the other half says. And opposites attract and stuff, right? Yeah? If you consider that in your analysis, have you? For marriage? Well, I bet you haven't. All right.
River when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't give a fuck. They're terrible people.
What the ain't no way he's talking about Palestinians, right?
They'd be doing the same thing. And how much did they kill? As many as they can. They're not able to kill as many people as Israel because they don't have as many bombs and as many weapons. But if they did, they'd be doing the same thing.
Oh my God, I hate this argument so much, bro. This is crazy. Holy, what is this? This is the full clip?
I want to consider a genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people. They have genocide.
Again, that's not what genocide is. Just so you know, take it from me. You're a local genocide expert, okay? Take it from your local genocide scholar.
Tend to Sharia law.
Bro.
I don't know how to comment on that. That just happened. That just happened. Don't expect me to ever do that, okay? I will never do that.
Oh.
Law.
What was that shrieking sound? It just assaulted my ears. I should. Oh my god, I should. Oh my. Maybe that should be my new dono sound. Okay, how would you feel if every time you donated to me, this happened?
Built into Sharia law.
Bro.
How would you feel if you heard that every single time you donated? I should do it, honestly. That should be my dono sound from now on. Base take from Asmongold. Who are you, Brian Mo? Have I seen you here before? Are you new to this stream? Have you come here lured by Asmongold content? Why do you say it's a base take? I'm interested in your opinion as a chatter of mine. Maybe for larger donos. Unfortunately, you cannot set these things on a scale. New YouTube just recommended you. Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay, I guess I'll have to ask you now, Brian Mo, since you're a new viewer. YouTube just recommended you. So I have to ask you, what other streamers do you watch? What sort of content do you digest? Do you like political streamers? Do you like history? Are you interested in learning about the war in Ukraine? Because Asmongold is free to have his opinion. I mean, everybody's free to have their own opinions. It's just that some opinions can be extremely stupid. And when someone has really stupid opinions, it is also, you know, I'm free to comment on that stupid opinion. That's how that works, right? As much as everybody is free to have an opinion, everybody is also free to comment on that opinion. Some say stupid, some say wise. I mean, you can say that about anything. Destiny, that's a girl's name. Listen. Don't insult my husband. Okay. Oh yeah, I already linked the page. So how do you like the stream so far? Interesting. So you basically watch Destiny and me. That's what's so great about the world. We are free to do what we want. I mean, that's not the truth of the world. You definitely are not free to do whatever you want all over the world. In most of the world. In general. Laws exist for one. So no, we're not just free to do whatever we want. Actually. You know? You may have to pay a price, but you are in fact 100% free to do what you want. Well, I guess that's fair. What you just said sounds like something my father would say, so fair play. Wow, Lucy, you attracted super fans. I know. You should go to the page.
Bro, oh my god, bro, oh my god. It's so funny because like his analysis right here is the
Also, since you watched Destiny, I was also tempted today to react to the Destiny debate. There was this live debate. He just uploaded it. I was thinking about reacting to that one because apparently it goes pretty wild.
liberal analysis. When you
Everyone is free to have an opinion, but having a huge platform makes it so you're kind of responsible for broadcasting those opinions. I mean, that is a fair point as well. you have big influence. And Asmongold has pretty big influence. His videos reach millions of views. He has pretty big live viewership.
Scratch the surface of like the average American over a certain age and why they are so blind to the obvious dynamic.
Over a certain age. Damn, ageism. Right off the bat, Hasan is engaging in ageism, blatant ageism. What do you mean over a certain age? What's the age over which Americans became bad?
The obvious inequalities, the obvious inhumanity of Israel's operations, they literally agree with this. They also think this. You only arrive at this conclusion after years and years and years of social conditioning that justify the war on terror, America's war on terror, and the unironic justifications for this war on terror required the dehumanization of Arabs and Muslims and every single person that lives in that part of the region. Because if you were to look at this,
I mean, it's not just war on terror. Islamophobia goes a little bit deeper than that. That's a very U.S. centric view, because war on terror does not explain the big amount of Islamophobia in Poland. Okay? It does not.
situation and recognize that humans are being.
When does the debate start? God. When does the debate start? When do they get to
blown
debate?
apart every single day?
Yes, I get it.
So every target, human being.
I understand.
That's it. Just takes enough. That's right. These people are not your allies. They are not the same as us. They come from an inferior culture.
Asmongold, your co-owner of your organization, you are calling a person from an inferior culture. What are you doing? Log off the internet. Your co-owner of your organization, you are calling a person from an inferior culture.
Oh.
What are you doing? Log off the internet.
Who's the co-owner? I have no clue. I have no clue who this co-owner that is being invoked here is.
Stop reading Reddit and go talk to some real humans, please. Holy shit.
That is horrible. It kills people for their identity, and it is directly antithetical to everything Western values stand for, and it is an inferior culture in all ways.
Damn.
It is that simple.
In all
Bro,
ways.
this is straight up one-to-one what Nazis said about Jewish people, what...
That was my argument, that it could be, that was my argument, because actually you could use that, You could very well say that the Nazis did actually say all those things about Jewish people.
Like the most right-wing...
Well, equating someone who is Muslim as someone who follows Sharia law, because Hassan's eyes that are all the same, who is being racist here. Okay, I can't believe I have to say this, but in Hassan's defense, Asmongold said that the Sharia law was built into the culture and that all of the people in that culture therefore follow it. That was actually a response to Asmongold's words, to be fair to Hasan Piker here. That it's ingrained into the people's culture, and therefore Asmongold does not care if they get genocided or whatever.
approach to this
Okay, let's
conversation.
get to the
This
debate.
kind of attitude, American exceptionalism, literally is the same thing. You're just removing American exceptionalist sentiment that is baked into American society, Western superiority. You're just taking the thing that shelters it and the thing that makes it like the norm. When you remove the outside patina, the skeleton remains. This is the skeleton. This is the
Skeleton in
bare
the
bones.
closet.
Okay? This is the bare bones of the argument that like America is the best country on earth. When you remove the outside stuff that makes it, I guess, seemingly more appropriate for liberal consumption, okay, in an otherwise liberal society, this is what you arrive at. I don't think, like, I think he popped off on this, not thinking that, like, this.
Okay, let's start.
Disgusting that people in the West enjoy more privileges and freedom than anywhere else in the world romanticize their behavior or their lifestyle as anything other than barbaric.
This is what people think you say about Israel. I know. I know. Like, if you were to say this about Judaism, understandably and rightfully, you would get banned, and you should get banned. Like, if I were to ever say this about, if I were to ever say, like, oh, Jewish culture is this way, I would literally be Adolf Hitler, okay? It's fucking ridiculous. For the record, I don't believe that about Judaism, regardless of how much my psychopathic, rabid haters try to claim. I believe it.
I know plenty of Muslims that respect
see.
gays. Well, I'm not talking about Muslims. I'm talking about people in Palestine. The truth
Oh, see, all people of Palestine just
is that that's what they
Dude, come on, dude. What? Palestinian culture as a whole? How the... Dude, this is your brain on Reddit. This is your brain on Reddit. If you don't interact with normal people, if you don't talk to...
damn. Does Asmongold even know anything about the history of the conflict, etc.? I'm not even. That's a silly question. I'm sorry. I apologize. That was a silly question of me.
people on a date is just
Okay, let's
against...
go to the
Also,
debate.
like, his community hates... Part of this that I don't understand. It's like, oh, Western culture is so superior. We love the gays, except I throw a fit every time I see them in my video games. But it also do that. Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Okay, let's go.
Okay, Asmongold wants to talk. He said.
All right.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. All right. Asmon,
Yes.
in the interest of fairness, I want you to...
Why is he making those faces? Like, what's with the face? What's happening? Why the faces?
explain what...
Why? Why make those facial expressions?
what you said that I saw in clips, in limited clips.
What is happening with his body language?
Earlier today, I think.
Okay, so basically, I find it to be really problematic that people put like a lot of virtue signaling, and I think it is virtue signaling.
Problematic. Now now we're entering that sort of language. I find it problematic. Jesus. Damn, it's come to this. Things are getting problematic. Okay.
For people that are supportive for like trans rights and LGBT rights,
I'm not so sure if Asmongold is even all that supportive of trans rights. That's so weird. If you support trans rights, you should be okay with Palestinians being genocided, I guess. That's the... What? How what?
when they support countries that kill people and prosecute them for being LGBT. I think
Okay.
it's a huge problem, and I don't think you can have both of those things.
Yes, if then I guess Poland should be genocided, right? Wait, hold on. I have to get...
And they support countries that kill people and prosecute them for being LGBT.
I mean, Poland was on the, maybe not kill, but prosecute or something. Poland was on the... Poland had the LGBT-free zone cities. Damn.
I think
Okay.
it's a huge problem, and I don't think you can have both of those things.
I guess Poland should be left to rot. Thank you.
So when you were saying like Palestinians exhibit inferior culture that's barbaric, you were simply talking about the hypocrisy. Is that what it is?
Yeah, pretty much. I do. And somebody in my chat said that you said that I thought Christian theocracy was better.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, what a fucking surprise. Okay. Well, here's the thing, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I want you to fully explain, because I want to understand. I want to understand everything that you mean beyond.
Asmongold's body language is very strange.
On the hypocrisy, because like the hypocrisy version, or the hypocrisy in and of itself, is one thing that we can address. It's a super simple concept.
Well,
but
how
I
do you
think there's
feel
a
about
broader, there's always a broader point beyond hypocrisy, because online, hypocrisy in and of itself, or even the invocation of hypocrisy or perceived hypocrisy, is seemingly a more damaging thing than like actual material harm, right?
Okay, I'm just gonna say this, okay? Hasanabi can debate Asmongold, who's not a political streamer, not really a political pundit, does not really talk about politics as a career, let's be honest. He just said a racist, bigoted thing. If he's willing to debate Asmongold on Israel-Palestine related topics, then why isn't he as ready to debate people about Ukraine who know what they're talking about? It's curious. I'm just throwing it out there because I'm a bit frustrated about it.
Oh,
just an aside. I'm leaving it now. Aside's been made, and aside's being put aside.
Person is hypocritical, and that's like a very common fucking thing. Yeah. I'm sure you experience it on a regular basis as well. It doesn't really matter.
Most hypocrisy, I think, is derived from a misunderstanding that is often deliberate. I see it oftentimes with you. You've seen it with me. Everybody has it happen. It's extremely common on the internet.
It's the Andrew Tate phenomenon, right? Where people don't give a fuck about like what Andrew Tate may have done or may not have done, or all the shit.
Well, that's cool, but there are people that had valid criticism of you, Hasan, and you were not even willing to engage with them. You just settled for calling them perverts and psychopaths. So you cannot just complain about this if you're not really willing to talk and clear up certain criticisms. God damn, I said that I was putting the aside, but I ended up bringing the aside back. But now I'm honestly putting the aside, okay? We're putting it back aside. But Hasan basically forced me to bring the aside back, so it's not really my fault. Is it?
That he has definitely done, right?
Right, yeah.
And care more about, like, you know, perceived hypocrisy.
Lucy, you must let go of your grudge. Never. That is not something that I'm willing to do.
Hypocrisy, usually. They care more about that than anything else. So I don't really.
I think there's a Norm Macdonald clip about that. It was very good.
Yeah, I don't necessarily care about hypocrisy that much, but in terms of the hypocrisy of a matter, I can explain it to you.
Sure.
Number one.
Okay.
So in terms of
what is Hasan doing? What is I don't know, taking things out of his mouth. Weird. What that? Ugh, those people. I swear to God.
Of LGBTQ acceptance, right? Trans acceptance, queer acceptance. You find that to be in the United States of America, in the wealthy.
The body language distracts me. Maybe I should do more of that kind of body language. Do you think that doing this sort of body language would give me more viewers and popularity and everything that I want in life? If I use my eyebrows more, if I animated more with my body. Do you think so? Write in the chat. Become more active chatters. Streaming is about the interaction, and I'm very interactive with the chat usually.
Nation on earth, one of the most prosperous nations on the planet, to be to a certain degree like a fancy thing to advocate for, right?
I don't think that you have to be rich to advocate for LGBT acceptance.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, what are you saying? Sorry.
No. What I'm simply saying is that LGBTQ representation in video games is oftentimes considered to be something that is like unnecessary, or something that is
Oh,
considered
you're talking
to
about
be
like in games?
in games, in facets of culture, in facets of media.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. It feels like it's inauthentic.
Sometimes it happens. In fact, I'm one of the vanguard people that did it. Asmongold should say. Unauthentic.
It's like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah, sometimes it happens. It feels like it's inauthentic. Yeah.
What? Okay, what is inauthentic gayness in games and what is authentic gayness in games?
Sure.
Okay. Well, wait, is there a positive example of LGBTQ representation that you can think of in mainstream media in recent years?
Sure.
Just so I understand what the dynamic is there.
Did you play Final Fantasy 16?
I did not.
Oh my god. So they had a character in Final Fantasy 16. His name was Dion. And he was like the prince of an area. He was like the, like person who could like channel Bahamut, right? And he was gay, and it was part of the story. And they actually blocked sale for that game in some places in the Middle East because Square Enix didn't want to censor the game for that reason. And I respected them a lot for that.
But that was, wait, they refused to block the game? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, Square Enix did not do that.
And that was a good representation of like gay or trans.
Yeah, I think so. I really do.
Okay.
I think that whenever you create a character, that the character's personality, sometimes it feels like when characters are added into stories, especially if they have like an LGBT like lean to them, they can be turned into being like a one-dimensional, like I guess identification of that person. And it's like they make like an overt effort to talk about that and discuss it.
Like me. I mean, what's wrong with discussing? That actually opens the question, what's wrong with discussing the subject of LGBT in games? But,
And I feel like in a lot of times it can come off as patronizing or talking down to the audience.
Who played FF16? Me on stream? Hello, Moho. I played it. I borrowed a PS5 and I played it on stream. Hello. Hello. Like, I totally did it.
Okay.
It feels very unauthentic to me.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there are instances where there's like gay representation, trans representation that's like ham-fisted and just simply added on as not a necessary vehicle for narrative development, but instead simply for identity points, right?
Sure.
To do diversity. Okay, so not to get too lost in the sauce, we can get back to this part of the conversation in a second. But my point was that like that level of LGBTQ representation, it's for diversity, it's for marketing purposes. Usually, it's just like sometimes it could be shitty narrative devices, but ultimately it doesn't really matter. But a lot of people still get mad at it, right? A lot of people in the Western world still get mad at it.
Yeah.
And for me,
like, are you telling me that Asmongold has never gotten mad over it? Yeah, he did. I'm pretty sure he did segments, he did videos talking about forced diversity, etc., and wokeness in games, didn't he? Did he never?
Me, in particular, there is a hierarchy of needs for and that all human beings respond to, all human beings exist under.
Is this like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or is this like something else?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs is appropriate, but like there's a higher standard, because the Maslow's hierarchy of needs usually is under the confines of like at least a developed country, where a developed country that is not constantly being bombarded or victims of like colonial occupation. My point is that Palestinians are not inherent.
Oh no, did you just say colonialism? colonialism.
Anti-gay or anti-trans or anything like that. There are gay Palestinians, there are trans Palestinians, both living in Gaza, in historic Palestine, and also certainly outside of Gaza.
Well,
The
is it
problem
against
is-
the law?
The problem is there is no time or space or opportunity for them to engage in queer liberation, let alone, advocate for more representation in their artworks, for example, when they're too busy being bombed and destroyed and killed and ethnically displaced for 76 years under an apartheid regime that is a settler colonial occupation.
Okay, real quick. You don't
Okay.
think that I support Israel, do you?
I don't, but I think
Okay,
that
good.
no, I don't think you support Israel, but I think you saying
No, I
that
don't.
like
Not
Palestinians
at all.
are
I mean, it doesn't really change much of what was said in that clip, but sure.
Palestinians are immoral or evil or have an evil, antiquated culture or are barbaric is
think
not
that.
only ahistorical. What's up?
I do think that.
Yeah.
LGBTQ people have just to justify every appearance in media. Straight characters get to just be.
I mean,
I think
Well,
you're-
Bro, I have to justify my existence on this very stream.
I don't know, man. Like, how can you be in support of a culture
I don't know, man.
that tells people that they can't be?
Listen, I'm gonna put it out there, okay? I'm gonna give a hot take. Maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it's horrible for me to say, but caring about a people being genocided does not automatically equal promoting or supporting every aspect of the culture of that people, okay? Those are unrelated things. Just because you advocate against a group being genocided, it does not mean you're in full support of whatever the culture entails or whatever. These are very, very separate things. But okay. I never thought I would have to say this, but here we are.
They want to be. Like, I mean, really, I mean, if I was advocating for what the laws were there, I would get banned for hate speech. How's that acceptable?
I think you are misunderstanding what their culture is, what the Palestinian culture is, and you're also not setting the standard under the material conditions in which they exist.
I don't
like-
think that you can do that. So there
Like,
are a
for
number of other
example-
countries.
For
Okay,
example.
well, okay, let me go after this.
Okay, you go ahead. But I will give you more historically appropriate points in
Sure.
a second.
So basically, the reason why
Really silly. Again, I'm taking the aside that I've put away aside twice, and once again remind you that Hassan's choice of debate opponents is very interesting. I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna say that and leave it at that. Just gonna drop it like a hot potato because we're 14 minutes in and this is a 3 hours debate. I'm not even sure if we're gonna watch the whole thing. At some point we're gonna have to stop unless you want me to debate to the whole thing. To react to the whole thing. I don't know. Do you? Do you want me to react to the whole thing?
I don't like what they do is because it's based off of a religious theocracy. And so you can look at other religious theocracies in other countries that aren't being bombed, and the one commonality that they have is that they all suppress people's identity and they express their freedom of expression. And I think that any culture and any type of government that is derivative of a religion is fundamentally inferior. I think this is true with any book. It's true with Judaism. It's true with Christianity. It's true with Islam. It's true with Hinduism. I think it's true with anything. And I find it to be very problematic that we're using these books as a guideline for like how to make laws when these books actively encourage killing people.
What does that have to do with the topic of saying that you don't care about people being genocided? Nothing. That's just a total aside, not related to the topic at hand at all. Very strange.
people for different types of identities. And obviously, like, I understand that there's like a huge spectrum of people that are part of any culture. There's people that are way more progressive, people that are way less progressive. But what I see is that I see countries that have laws that haven't been bombed, right? You look at like Saudi Arabia or like Dubai. A lot of these other countries still have the same types of expressions or same type of restrictions on the expression for LGBT. And I find that to be problematic and inferior. And I think that you could I want to make sure that this is very clear, because like, I don't want you to think that this is something that's like oh, the brown people over there are wrong. I would say the exact same thing for us, you know, like the church, you know, like Christianity.
Oh, so Asmongold would not care if the church got bombed to oblivion? Is that the standard? Like, Asmongold would be okay with all churches being just carpet bombed to nothingness?
Like if you look at, for example, like Salem witch trials, it's disgusting. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that I think that there is a standard that's being applied, and I don't really understand how that's defensible at all. I don't like, and that's what doesn't make sense to me. Is
It's
that
not.
And like okay,
it's
well
not.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
But here is the problem.
Okay.
It's not defensible, but I think most people, including like the
Yeah.
gay Palestinians or queer Palestinians or
Would not like to be
queer
bombed.
Lebanese people,
Sure,
understand that there is no room for advocating for civil liberties in your own domestic policies when you are escaping bombing
So,
campaigns.
I see your point,
So
but do you
this
see
is
my
the
No, I actually don't see Asmongold's point. No. Culture bad, therefore genocide, I don't care, is not a good point to make.
reason.
that-
This is the reason
go ahead.
why so many of these countries, whether it be Iran, whether
Yeah.
it be Afghanistan, whether it be Egypt, or many of these places that were far more liberal from Western standards, from the Western understanding of like social liberalism, multiple decades ago, before Western intervention, are no longer as socially liberal as they once were. Because
talking about like the 1917 Iran thing, basically.
not 1917, but yes,
Or it's
circa
1979,
1950.
excuse me. Yes, sorry.
And
Wow,
when you look
Asmongold
at the
history
history
buff.
of these countries, and not to say that like I don't personally think that Saudi Arabia deserves to be annihilated for having a religious theocracy. I don't personally think Israel deserves to be annihilated for operating within like liberal confines, but still maintaining a religious theocracy that is baked into now their constitution.
Do you
Israel,
think that I support that?
no, I don't think you support that either.
Okay.
But oh wait, well, in terms of the Palestinians, I think the quote was that inferior cultures deserve to be wiped out.
Oh, I don't know about that. I feel like anytime that you're killing people based
Uh-oh.
off of anything like that, I don't think that Israel or America or anybody has the right to come in and tell Palestine how to live and for them like what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, but you
Right, I'm
also
not trying
said
to-
that you're not gonna cry a river if they get genocided.
Tell them what to do. But if you want me to accept their culture as being equivalent to ours, I won't.
That's but, well, okay, but what does that have to do with you saying that if they get genocided, you won't cry a river because they would do the same? You did say that, no?
do that.
Okay,
And I do think that it's worse.
okay, but culture, you understand that culture changes throughout time, and it is directly a consequence of like how people or what people are experiencing. In the United
Well,
States
I
of
think that
America,
we're evidence of that. We're evidence of that because like we're
Yes.
much farther. along.
so
Yeah, I
so
think a
do
lot
you
of places
think
are
do
a lot
you think like I don't think you would agree that bombing places makes them more tolerant to
Absolutely not.
yeah. Okay, and I don't think
Absolutely not.
I don't think that you think that like nuking America, for example, circa 2013 when gay marriage was.
We're not going to bomb the gay into them. I understand that.
Okay.
You're totally right.
Okay. So
Yeah.
in terms of some of your statements,
Yeah.
like not only I think you're wrong on the history of queer culture,
But also the present.
in Arab countries, in Muslim nations in general. I'll give you one example. The Ottoman Empire actually decriminalized homosexuality in the Tanzimat era. I think it was like 18th century. And before then, it was not even like a problem. It was never an issue. Far before Western nations ever actually decriminalized or made it legal to be gay. And this is oftentimes a not really mentioned aspect of
Hassan's favorite country, the Ottoman Empire.
the Muslim world or Muslim culture or the Arab history or the region's history at all.
I mean, to be fair, the Ottoman Empire history is far more than just Muslim history, quote unquote. Hasan Piker. It's a very Turkey-centric point of view.
Most people don't know this, and it's like genuinely shocking to them. You might maybe even be shocked to find out that the Ottoman Empire, where Palestine was seen as a safe haven for Jews as they were escaping the Spanish Inquisition, for example, and many other pogroms that Jewish people experienced in, especially in Western and Eastern Europe. The Ottoman.
Well, somebody's ignoring the existence of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, in which Jewish people enjoyed their golden age, which was not the case in the Ottoman Empire to such an extent as in the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Owned, sort of, kind of, I guess, maybe. I suppose.
Empire in the MENA region, all the way that spans to Morocco, was seen as a safe haven and safe harbor for Jews, where they were allowed to coexist in far better conditions under Islamic rule, technically. That was far more
honestly,
tolerant.
I would go even farther than you are. I think that back then it wasn't just the fact that they were accepting of gay. I think that they were way more scientifically oriented. They were way more...
The Ottoman Empire? What are you basing that on? The Ottoman Empire was much more scientifically oriented. I think Asmongold is mistaking the Ottoman Empire with the golden age of Spanish Islam. I think Asmongold is mistaking his eras.
Focused on learning and mathematics. I think that's evidently true. I don't think anybody would say the Ottoman Empire was shitty or anything like that. I think they were very progressive for their time.
Some would. What do you know about the Ottoman Empire? What the hell? What do you mean nobody would say that the Ottoman Empire was shitty? What about all the pogroms of the Armenian people at the end of the Ottoman Empire's existence? Was that not shitty? What? Okay. Sure. Maybe the Armenian culture was just inferior or something. It's all good.
It's not even a question.
So
I totally agree with you.
But things have changed in the region since then.
They sure have.
So what do you think is the difference there? Like, what do you think has happened in the hundreds of years that have passed, that have gone by, or especially in the last 100 years? Why has the attitude overall
the West did not force Turkey to genocide the Armenians, okay? Just gonna put it out there, okay? The changes in the region are far more complicated than Western interventionalism into poor Ottoman Empire. God.
Of governance changed so dynamically and so dramatically?
I think there's probably a bunch of different reasons for it, right? I mean, it's not like one reason, but I don't think that if are we trying to.
But what do you mean changes in the region? Is this debate gonna turn into the discussion of the fall of the Ottoman Empire period? Because that was a pretty messy period, which culminated in you know what. The thing that Cenk Uygur used to deny even happened.
Imply that it's like American imperialism and interventionism that's caused this to happen? Is that kind of like
absolutely.
where you're going with
no,
this?
I am saying that.
Yeah.
America not only directly armed and radicalized fundamentalists in the region, including but not limited to Afghanistan, for example, with the Mujahideen, because they were seen as like a fighting force that they could use against the communist adjacent Afghan government or the USSR inevitably when the USSR did invade. But also
I guess we just jumped history from Ottoman Empire, which was great, to US intervention in the Middle East. I feel like we skipped a few steps. We might have done a bit of a jump there. Like, I don't know. Feels like might have missed something there. Like there might have been a giant leap made. Historically speaking, between the existence of the Ottoman Empire and U.S. interventionism in the Middle East and funding groups.
So beyond that, the most nationalistic or the most militant fundamentalists were perceived in Iran, for example, as the true liberators that were not willing to fight against the Western-backed Shah regime, the Western-backed monarchy in Iran. So that's the reason why a lot of people, whether they agreed with it or not, ultimately on the social front doesn't really matter. They were like, these guys are going to protect us. These guys are actually fighting back against this ruthless rule of the Shah that was, falsely torturing people on a regular basis.
Okay, so
that's
if your argument is that.
This is why you should not have debates on topics that you don't know about. Because Asmongold cannot address any of this, because I'm pretty sure Asmongold knows nothing about any of this. So this is just gonna be Hasan Piker lecturing Asmongold on the Middle East or whatever. Which is why, again, I'm taking the aside back to here before I put it aside for the fourth time. This is exactly why Hasan chooses his debate opponents the way he does.
Well, how do you reconcile that with the fact that there are other countries like Saudi Arabia, for example, that don't have that history but still have the same laws?
Oh, that's a great example. Saudi Arabia is allowed to exist like that because they have a valuable resource that they are gladly and willingly coordinating with the Western powers on, in terms of OPEC plus. They have oil.
Doesn't that?
So did Iran, but Iranian oil was refined by British Petroleum, Mossadegh at the time. It was a social democrat. Very progressive for the time as well, wanted to nationalize their own extraction industries. And this was seen as a massive slight and it caused massive harm to the profit margins of British Petroleum and the American intelligence and Western intelligence cooperated to overthrow Mossadegh very openly and very clearly. They implemented the Shah regime. He was brutal. He was a brutal autocrat. He was a monarch. People hated him. And at the end of the day, it was the Islamic revolution and the fundamentalist forces that were the most successful in terms of fighting back against the Shah. That's the reason why they overtook the country and have been dominating the nation ever since. There are plenty of gay and trans people. By the way, Iran is actually weirdly very pro-trans, but I'm sure that you probably didn't know that. They're very homophobic, but they are.
I mean, saying that it's pro-trans, if it's what I'm thinking about, then it's not being pro-trans, okay? If it's the thing that I'm thinking about, where if someone is gay, they're forced to transition. If you have a gay man, okay, and the gay man is forced to transition into a woman, because I know there are countries that do that. I'm not sure if Iran is that particular country. Then that's not a pro-trans policy, okay? That's not being pro-trans if you force gay people to transition. Lucy, can you teach me the art of staying focused? I'm afraid not. I'm trying to teach myself that skill. I'm trying to learn how to stay focused, but I'm afraid that is not an art that I have mastered. So it's like you might be out of luck. Might be out of luck on that front. Also, you know what you should do? Because this is the I Love Lucy Day. So you should join the page and give Lucy some love. Because today's the I Love Lucy Day. You know?
They are very pro-trans. A lot of cultures are actually very pro-trans, way more than the United States of America. Maybe to a fault at times, like Iran, when they do forcible gender.
I mean, you look at like Native American culture, I think it's extremely popular. Norse culture, I mean, you could say the same thing about Loki, right? It's like the idea of being trans is like super, super, super old, like Shiva, right? Another good example. So yes. I think that's true.
There's a concept of third gender in India, Pakistan, and many other places as well. So
that's also not exactly a pro-trans stance per se.
But that's
a lot more complicated than that. That's such a simplification.
That's the point. So what I'm trying to say is, we cannot exist outside of the material condition that we are subjected to. If you are living under a ruthless, corrupt autocratic rule, and there's a group of people that say, I'm going to fight back against this ruthless autocratic rule that is like Western power backed, then people will be on board with that. They're going to be like, oh,
problem is that the current Iranian government is a ruthless authoritarian rule, as evidenced by, I don't know, women that live there.
This is great. I love this revolution. I'm on board.
Okay, so I can go even farther than that. I totally understand why groups like ISIS happen. Like, if you look at people from ISIS, these are people that are like 20 years old. They've lived their entire life being occupied by a foreign power. I think that we're doing a horrible thing.
And Iran, though, like, I hope you understand that, right? And just like there's a difference between ISIS and Hamas and all these other
I'm just giving you an example. I'm giving you an example of like. So I think extremist groups are created. So you got a lot of heat. You got a lot of hate. One of your most popular, biggest hits was that America deserved 9/11. Remember that?
Yes.
Bad day. Bad day. But what you meant to say is that American interventionism inadvertently caused this to happen. Am I
directly,
right?
Not even inadvertently. Is a concept that historians call blowback.
I totally agree with you about that. I completely agree with you. I think that you're right. I defended that. Yeah. So my perspective is that
how cool of you.
I don't think that we can blame, like, I don't see the logic that all of these other countries that are like, from the West, right, that are like much more progressive, are somehow intervening and making this, like, these other countries in the Middle East hate gay people and like want to kill gay people. And I don't see how, like,
Wait, you don't
pushing
agree with
against,
that? You're saying
no, I don't. I don't really see how.
He seems himself as superior for having comfortable material conditions. I mean,
They're congruent.
so.
I don't like.
Why
No,
do you
I
think
don't.
that? So why do you think that historically they didn't hate gay people, but now they do? Like, don't you?
I'm not
Don't,
sure.
you recognize that, like, culture changes. You said that you understand
They're
that, like, the
inferior.
Ottoman Empire
Sure.
was more progressive in comparison
like-
to its European counterparts in terms of, like, the way that they view gay people, even, or homosexuality in general.
I think that we can come to the agreement, and like, we can talk about historically all you want, right? I think that in some cases, like, that's true. In a lot of cases, like, the way that this is perceived around the world, like, Romans looked at it differently, Greeks looked at it differently, everybody's looked at it differently. But I'm talking about what's happening today. And if I'm looking at those cultures today, those are cultures that are oppressing people based off of their identity. And
Well,
at a certain point,
right now, the Palestinians don't have any structural governance to be able to do that, regardless. So there is no like gay oppression happening in Gaza, because the only oppression that's happening in Gaza is that Israel's lighting them on fire with regular frequency.
and we're paying for it.
Yes. So
I mean, you said that you won't cry a river because they're whatever. Whatever.
in terms
Asmongold has internalized the just world fallacy. Most people just kind of unconsciously on board the way of.
of like Islamist fundamentalism, right?
Yeah.
In terms of Islamist fundamentalism, or the way that like you perceive Palestinians as viewing.
None of you ever answered my question if I should emote more like Asmongold to gain more viewership. None of you want more viewership from me. That is the only conclusion that I can come to when it comes to this topic.
Gay people.
Yeah.
There has never been an opportunity for Palestinian people to engage in queer liberation, because in the hierarchy of needs, the number one.
Okay, SMB. I always engage with the chat, with the chatters, because I'm a very interactive streamer. So, what is the Asmongold W exactly? Also, what brought you to this stream? Are you a new viewer? What other streamers do you watch, apart from Asmongold, possibly? What type of content do you consume? Also, here's a link to my page. And how are you liking the stream so far? I have to do this. I have to do this with all new viewers. You already know. That's my little, let's just call it tradition. I don't watch or like him. Oh, okay. So who do you watch? But I think he's right. Okay. Okay, I'll ask then. Who do you watch and why do you think he's right? And how do you like this stream while we're at it? There you go. We're doing this now. We're doing this little chat with the chat. Sam Hyde. Is that the... I watch like Sam Hyde and stuff. And how do you like this stream? And also, you only watch Sam Hyde? I want you to have more viewers, but I don't want Asmongold to be acknowledged as a successful streamer. I mean, it's, thank you, Red Ruse, for wishing more viewers for me. I will do my best to earn more viewers. I have a lot of viewers today, so I'm happy with that. So SMB, how do you like this stream? And more importantly, why do you think Asmongold is right? I have no opinion so far, but you seem chill. I just joined randomly. Well, hopefully you will subscribe and come back. That's my hope. That is my big hope. It will be part of my huge viewership of the future. Also, why do you think Asmongold is correct? Cry me a river. I mean, I think I cry already too much. Okay. I think Islam hasn't parted from its violent archaic roots, whereas most other religions have. I mean, that is a fine, I guess, opinion to have, but it does not follow that if you don't like a religion or parts of a group's culture, then suddenly it's okay not to give a crap if that group's being genocided, right? Because that was part of Asmongold's argument when he said, I don't care if Crimea River, I don't care if they get genocided because they would do the same. Like, this is, I would hope this is a part that most people would find objectionable. No? Don't you think so? Don't you find it objectionable to say, basically, I don't like the culture of a people, so I don't care if they get genocided? Well, sure, you can question the word. Like, the problem is that Asmongold's statement is bad regardless. Because you can discuss whether or not what is happening in Gaza is a genocide. You can sort of make arguments for and against that, right? But Asmongold's argumentation does not rest on the argument of it being a genocide being true or not. Asmongold just straight up said, I don't care if they're being genocided because they would do the same thing. You know? I mean, we can go back to that clip, right? Should I play the clip again for you so that you can like hear the full thing that he said in that video? Let me see, okay? You want me to play the clip again? I can. I sure can if you want me to. So do you want me to? I'll just have to find it again. But it's no problem. I just have to, I don't know, clip all of those findings from the segment. No, I'm just gonna watch it on stream again. Hold on. I'm not gonna send it. I'm just gonna watch it on stream again. We'll just watch it on stream again. That's not a problem. There you go. I'm just gonna watch the clip again.
If you want to consider a genocide as a systematic killing of a group of people,
Which, by the way, this is not how we define genocide, but I already explained this. We're not gonna go through this again. That is not how we define genocide.
they have genocide built into Sharia law right now. So no, I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. I don't
There you go. This is him saying it directly in the clip.
give a fuck. They're terrible people. It's not even a question.
See, so it goes back to my argument. Just because you don't like a culture or how people do things or whatever, it doesn't follow that it's, you know, that you just don't care if the group gets genocided, right? I'm hoping that you find this objectionable.
It's crazy that people don't see it that way. They'd be doing the same thing.
Right? I sincerely hope that at least this part you find objectionable, right? I mean, I do. And just because you are against a people being genocided, it doesn't follow that you wholesale support all of that group's culture, practices, or whatever. It's just not, you know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying?
One need for them is to stop Israel from killing them, is to stop Israel from dominating them since 1948. And even before then as well. But after Israel was formed in 1948, that has been the game for the most part. They have never had an opportunity to even think about queer liberation. If your house is on fire, you're not going to be spending a whole lot of time thinking about the color of your.
Yeah, I think his take on Sharia law is somewhat right, but yeah, it's not the best argument if he's relating it to them being like, you can understand why I object to what was being said in that clip, right? You can understand why I'm not the biggest fan of what was being said there. Two wrongs don't make a right. True. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Curtain, right? And that's what this is. There's a much larger problem at hand. And this is precisely the reason why a lot of people actually
By the way, I think we're gonna end this at some point because it's a pretty long debate, and there is also a second debate that I would like to check out. So I guess we're gonna go through, because I'm not sure if we're gonna get any more out of this in the long term. Do you agree? That's my opinion. I don't think I'm gonna be able to add any super new commentary within the next 3 hours of this debate. We can watch some more, but I'm just, It would be more excusable if Asmongold was funny, but he's not. At least not in this instance. Someone said they just go in circles. So I guess we'll just watch a bit more and then we'll go watch that other debate that Destiny had.
Never fully comprehend this, but a lot of leftists in the Western world do understand that intersectionality. And regardless of like the perceived queer phobia from Palestinians and Palestinian governance, they still, of course, offer solidarity. I said this earlier, and I think it's a take bear repeating. I'm in favor of Medicare for all and universal social safety nets in the United States of America unconditionally.
This live debate that Destiny had, I guess we're gonna go a bit through that, and then we're gonna discuss some news topics. There are a few that I'd like to talk about. Ukraine war. There's one topic that I'd like to talk about, which is domestic Polish politics. I'd like to talk about the drug-selling, partying priest, Catholic priest. The story seems pretty funny, but it sort of becomes very bad and depressing. At least one aspect of it. Hasan is a champagne socialist. Don't get me started on Hasan's opinions on Ukraine. Don't get me started on how he calls creators that give Ukraine people a voice perverted psychopaths, and how he refuses to debate anybody who's knowledgeable about Ukraine. I've taken the aside for the 10th time, and I'm putting the aside back for the 10th time. I'm sorry, Arkael. I just cannot let go of that grudge. I'm just like, I'm petty like that.
I do not believe in refusing to offer, for example, any sort of healthcare to a person because they're a Nazi even, right? That's an extreme...
Still weird how they call the Ottoman Empire progressive since they still had slavery late in the 19th century. Look, I think Asmongold just mistook the Ottoman Empire period with the golden age of Islam in Spain. People who don't know history, I don't know. It's charitable, but I will chalk it up to an honest mistake. You're kind of far right. I guess I must be pretty good if as a trans person I make far right people watch my content. Are you aware that I'm trans? Oh my gosh. Is that a reveal? Speaking of Polish politics, let me see. Let me check this out. What is this? I don't even want to know what this is. No way. It's true. It's true. It's true. You got me. You got me. You got me. Yes. biggest Polish trans streamer who does history content, political content. Yes, you got me. Red-handed, like that person that reaches to the cookie jar. My girlfriend is a communist. Well, being trans is not exactly the same as being a communist, but you know, they're certainly related concepts. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. You studied at Radboud? Wait. Are you asking me? Worse. Are you saying that being trans is bad? I mean, you did say that you were far right. What do you mean you studied at Radboud? What does that mean? What do you mean? I have no clue what you mean. Oh. No, I didn't. Where is Radboud anyway? Where is Radboud? Where is that? Hold on, I'm just gonna look it up because I have a bad feeling. It's in the Netherlands. Oh. I just happen to have that hoodie. I don't even know where I got it. I'm not even sure where I got this red hoodie. No, I don't think trans is bad at all. Only thing I disagree with is young age gender surgeries and stuff. What do you disagree with me in particular on that? What do you disagree with me in particular? How young is too young for surgery or any sort of gender affirming care? Depends on the communist. A lot of people who call themselves communists aren't anything I would call political allies. It's almost a meaningless word. No, it's not.
Extreme case. I think that they
Wait, you're against young surgery? So if a 12-year-old boy gets in a car crash and needs immediate surgery, are you against that? The glorious content? Damn. That is a very extremist way of seeing the world, and I'm not sure if I approve. No, you don't. You don't have to be 18 to consent to major surgical interventions, actually. Like, we went through the chart. There are cases in which minors can consent to medical procedures regardless of consent of others. I would assume that if a minor gets into a big accident, their hand gets sliced, they get to a hospital, then there's no consent needed of parents, etc., for the doctor to start immediately saving the child's hand from being lost from the wound, right? And that's a surgery. Like, we cannot forget that these things are surgeries, right? I'm also against car accidents, that's fair. I mean, it also depends on how you define genital mutilation, quote unquote, but that's neither here nor there. Right. Yeah, but there are definitely cases in which minors can very much consent to all sorts of medical procedures without needing the agreement without needing permission from any third party, including parents. All right, continue. Also, if a minor is in a high-risk group of breast cancer, would you still be against that? If the minor said that they want to do a breast removal surgery to prevent, as a preventative surgery, because they don't want to even risk getting cancer, would you consider that body mutilation? There were cases like that, by the way. I'm not making some wild, hypotheticals up that have no representation in reality. These sort of stuff happened. There were people that had a high risk of getting breast cancer based on family history, etc., and they were like, "Yeah, I want to get rid of them because I don't even want to go through the risk of getting cancer in the future." Well, that's just a possibility of getting cancer. The cancer is never guaranteed. That's preventative. It doesn't prevent death. Like breast cancer in itself is also not exactly a death sentence automatically. And the cancer itself is not guaranteed to happen. Like it's the person deciding to go for the surgery to reduce the risk of getting the cancer from X% to 0%, basically. I love spaghetti. But you know what sort of argument I'm trying to put forward, right? That's not a problem. As for doing it in that case, this gets more complicated. I mean, it's always complicated, right? These sort of things always get complicated when it comes to, like, people don't approach these life-altering surgeries lightly. It's always complicated. Like, we have to accept that it's never a simple matter of, oh, I just decided today that I want to get rid of genital X or I want to change genital A to genital B. It's always a very complicated, very serious decision. There was this famous TV series called Married with Children, a comedy series, and there was the girl that played the daughter of the family, and she did the surgery because she wanted to reduce the risk of getting breast cancer. She did it preventively. That's one example that I can give you from real life.
I
Deserve
agree
healthcare.
with you. I agree with you, and I would even go farther than that. I think that if somebody's an illegal immigrant, I don't think that we should ever tell. I think it's disgusting to tell a doctor or tell a healthcare provider to let somebody die or to let them bleed out or something like that just because of that. I completely agree with you. I had to pay my taxes recently. I'm sure you're probably about in the same place. It was 7 figures. And so I have no problem
Well,
with
I
that.
live in California. Is pretty
You got a
significant.
bet. Yeah, it's
But I don't
not
care.
good.
I don't
And
mind
so
that.
I don't either. I used to be paying for people used to pay for my food stamps. Now I'm paying for somebody else's. And if
Yeah.
they raised my taxes to pay for Medicare for all, I would be happy and I would vote for that.
So if you
I would be
understand
very
that,
much in
right?
support of that.
So
For sure.
so
Right.
you recognize that. Would you say that like a religious enclave
Yeah.
in Alabama, for example, deserves to be wiped out for their understanding of like gay people, like a white religious enclave
Oh.
in Alabama?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't
Okay, we're gonna go through this example and then we're gonna move on, okay? I think we've gone as far as we could with this. We'll see. I hope SMB you understand that you can have a conversation with a person. I would consider myself a pretty left-leaning person. You call yourself a pretty right-wing. Well, you actually called yourself a pretty far right-wing person. Are you gonna be voting for Trump? Who are you gonna be voting for? Out of curiosity. All right, let's listen to some more, and then we're gonna move on to different sort of.
I don't think that they deserve to be wiped out, but I would not advocate for them.
I will be voting for King Cobra. What?
I would not look at that group and say, this is a group of people that I support.
So you can
I would
understand where the
not
confusion
support
comes
people like
from when you
And I can
said that
see
about
that. That's why
Palestinians,
I
right?
wanted to. Yeah, sure, right, sure, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, right? Because I think that you and we had a conversation about this before, and I can very much easily empathize with Palestinians. Of course I can, but I don't think that it's entirely true that Palestine, like, I mean, didn't Palestine support Hitler?
I can emphasize with Palestinians, but I don't care if they get. That's the opposite of empathy. I'm sorry to say, saying that you don't care if they get genocided is the opposite of empathy. Don't pull the empathy card on me now. Come on, that's ridiculous. That is just silly. Really? You're gonna pull the empathy card now?
Hitler?
no.
Pretty sure they did.
No.
The mayor of Palestine supported Hitler.
What you're talking about is the British colonial British colonial occupation put forward a leader. Oftentimes in colonies, when you engage in like colonial actions, like and British Mandate Palestine was obviously a colony of the English. They will appoint a person into a position of power that is
Also, have you formulated any opinion on this stream? Are you enjoying yourself? Have I earned a viewer, albeit a far right viewer?
is more acceptable to British needs and desires in the region to dominate the people. This is, I mean, history is riddled with examples such as this one. The Palestinian Grand Mufti was a singular person who went and linked up with Adolf Hitler and you know, thought that he could coordinate with Adolf Hitler in terms of like ridding Palestine of the Jews. Having said that, however, 11,000
and that sounds pretty bad.
It does. But
yeah.
when you realize that one, there were also.
I mean, what Asmongold said about not caring about people getting genocided, that sounds pretty bad. Even if he did it, even if he said that based on a faulty definition of what a genocide even is, but.
Jewish.
I mean, I would agree, Greater Rain, but there. I mean, the opinion on breasts and their utility, etc. They vary.
Early Zionist.
Thank you for the subscription. Thank you very much.
Militias that also
I think we're gonna finish
Adolf Hitler's help and tried to coordinate with Adolf Hitler. You understand that this has no bearing on an entire people and what their actual attitudes were. Not only that, but also 11,000 Palestinians actually fought alongside the Allied forces against Adolf Hitler. So Palestinians.
Also, there's a pretty complicated and pretty bad history of the militant Zionists that were in the Palestinian region and were too busy fighting the British instead of fighting the Nazis that were perpetuating the Holocaust. That's actually also a little piece of history that happened and is not really great.
Far greater numbers actually fought against Adolf Hitler than the one British occupation guy that actually linked up with Adolf Hitler. It's actually a common historic Holocaust revisionist talking point that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu once famously utilized as well, where he falsely claimed that Adolf Hitler did not want to kill the Jews until he talked to the Palestinian Grand Mufti, who gave him the idea of killing the Jews and doing the final solution. This was such a gross historical revision.
Well, Russia was also doing the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, and until the Nazis decided to attack the USSR, Stalin was a firm ally of Hitler. So, you know, there's also that aspect of the whole situation in World War II. Asmongold has an intense gaze, crazy eyes. Maybe I should be more emotive like this. Maybe that would make me have thousands upon thousands of live viewership like he does. I could become Asmund Silver.
His talking point that obviously the entirety of Israeli society actually criticized Benjamin Netanyahu for saying such a ridiculous...
But he did want to get rid of the Jews, though, right?
Yeah, but it's a singular person that has no bearing on real Palestinian existence, especially when much larger numbers of Palestinians fought alongside the Allied forces, right?
I think that it definitely does matter if a figurehead of a country is supporting Hitler.
It's not a figurehead of a country, though. It's the figurehead. It's an appointed person
and
that has no bearing. And for example,
don't you feel like it's a bit unfair for you to attribute every instance of bigotry and bad behavior to being the West's fault?
No, I think I have a very realistic. I
I mean, yes, I do believe. I do agree with Asmongold to a degree here. That's yes. There comes a time when the West is bad. It becomes so ridiculous that you start defending the Russian invasion of Ukraine. That is certainly a thing that happened, especially with Hasan Piker. The myth of there being a good guys in World War II is deeply anti-Semitic. It gets a bit
materialist analysis of these sorts of things, where I think that people don't have time to fight for gay liberation when, like I said, they're too busy trying to literally rebuild their homes after it's bombed, especially by a force that, you know, doesn't have like automatic heat-seeking missiles that avoid gay people. You know what I mean? They're killing gay people and trans people in Gaza every fucking day. Like, there is no... Like, gay liberation is not a real conversation here. It's just a mere talking point that a lot of people who defend Israel, not saying you do, but a lot of people who defend Israel try to repackage Israel's violence and contextualize it and make it seem more appropriate to an American audience that is...
Well, it's the Holocaust. And there are some scholars that actually say that the 6 million figure is an undercount. Also, basically half of that number comes from Poland. Also, I think that is worth remembering that out of the 6 million, more or less half of that number comes from Poland, and that the entirety of the Polish Jewish community has been entirely wiped out. A whole was like a society within society, almost a very thriving and beautiful society. And it's all been irreparably destroyed, along with the architecture itself. Not only the architecture was wiped off the face of the earth when it comes to Warsaw, but also the people have been wiped out. I could go into a whole long thing about it, but I think you get what I mean.
Sometimes pro-gay and pro-queer. It rarely ever works. A lot of queer people still don't give a shit. They're like, I don't care. Just stop killing these people. Is their attitude. So that's it. That's the reality of the matter. Is that once Palestine is liberated, then they can have this conversation internally. But right now, Western forces are allowing the death and destruction of this people to continue.
What do you think the odds are that after this stops happening, that the Palestinians are going to get together and...
So yes, it just... you cannot just adopt this sort of view that since a group of people has elements that you don't like in culture, behavior, or whatever else, then that group is forfeit. They don't deserve any self-determination. They don't deserve any sort of consideration. And if they're being genocided, then that's just fine. You don't care and you will not cry a river. That's not a reasonable standard to have about things, I don't think. It's just not. At least in my opinion.
Say that it's okay to be gay.
I don't know, because I can't even imagine a world where this death and destruction isn't constant. But I would say that just like in the United States of America, you know, there people inevitably evolved, inevitably fought back, and
what do you think? I've actually got a really good
an
question.
environment for queer liberation, even though to this day there are still a shit ton of problems that especially trans people experience on a regular basis.
Oh, I mean, it to me, I'm sure you're on Twitter probably more than I am.
I'm not.
And so,
is that so? I don't believe that from any of them. I don't believe that from the both of them. I think they're both on Twitter a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I deleted it off my phone. I rarely go on it unless I'm live.
Nick did the same.
I don't believe it. It's a lie. Oh, I have no reason to doubt it, but
that's crazy. Wow.
concern yourself with sexual matters beyond reproduction leads to problems that signify as being a dying. What? What about just finding sex pleasurable? What's wrong with whatever? We're not getting into that.
Oh, okay.
Hello, fake Alec Hal Parker. You have a pretty good viewership today. And tonight is the I Love Lucy national holiday in the US, apparently particularly in Chicago. So if you like what I'm doing, if you like this stream, if you like this content that I'm providing to you, this entertainment, then why not join the page? Why not give Lucy some love? Go back to Asmongold for a bit, and then we'll go to the... Also, thank you for the subscription. We'll go back to the... Well, not go back, then we'll switch to the Destiny debate. Debate after debate. Jesus, people debating. But it's just so... I'm not gonna say it for the up 10th time. The fact that Hasan Piker just refuses to debate anybody that knows what they're talking about on any given subject. Link this. What? You mean the Star Wars thing? You want me to link it in the chat? Or what? What do you want me to do? The glorious content? What are you expecting of me?
It's crazy, and I think that it's just it just keeps getting worse too. And I'm curious, like, kind of what your viewpoint is, because we're talking about like kind of how like these different cultures are accepting people, and like now, what do you think about like Saudi Arabia and like the way that they're like, I guess, effectively sports washing things? I think that's the term that's being used a lot, right, with like esports, etc. Like, what's your take on that?
I think that Saudi Arabia is also a religious theocracy that is simply trying to moderate their viewpoint in an effort to become more accepted by Western culture and bring in Western capital into the country.
For sure.
Ultimately, if they did,
Sure, I'll link it. It is a pretty funny parody thing. Sure, there you go. I might as well. Every day is a Love Lucy day. Thank you so much, Dr. Johns.
Become a queer safe haven, for example, overnight, there's still plenty of issues in Saudi society in terms of utilizing slave labor, in terms of
How about a debate with some person who thinks Ukrainian is just a dialect of Russian? What? What do you mean a debate about a debate?
of death and destruction that befalls like indigenous populations in areas where they want to do building projects. And beyond that, there is the whole genocide in Yemen. A lot of these things can be solved inevitably, and there were some initiative from China that brought Iran and Saudi Arabia to the table to stop the destruction of Yemen, for example. That was relatively successful pre-October 7. But like, there are a shit ton of problems in Saudi Arabia still. Having said
just
that,
recently they just let women drive.
yes,
Very recently. Yeah.
yes,
No,
a lot of the things,
I'm fully
a
aware
lot
of
of the
that.
things that
Yeah.
that people who use
Okay,
this
just,
kind of sentiment
I don't
against
know.
Palestine.
Should we skip around, or should we just? Do you want me to skip around this debate? It's a 3 hour long debate. It's a really long debate. So do you want me to skip around this? Do you have any particular parts? For any of you that has already seen this, like, are there any parts that I like?
Simply monolithizing an entire religion versus people who are championing religion, Islam.
I Love Lucy Day is not over. It's never over. Because Dr. John said that every day is a Love Lucy Day.
Own authoritarian governance demands, and that's simply what it is. A lot of people don't like the way that their government operates. There are gay Muslims, there are queer Muslims, there are queer trans people.
It is what it is.
They have unfortunately not had any breathing room to be able to advocate for civil rights in many parts of this region, because they have been consistently pushed back against, and also don't have any fucking time or space to be able to do such a thing when they're under direct occupation. That's the issue.
But would you come to the same conclusion that basing decisions off of that religion and making laws based off of that religion is a bad thing?
Yeah, of course. I don't. What do you mean?
Okay.
I don't agree in theocracy at all.
Awesome. But wouldn't that mean that it would be inferior?
Okay, how do we go from that to, therefore, if that group of people will get genocided, then I will not care? How do we get?
No, I wouldn't say that any culture is inferior to one another. I would, however, say that especially as it pertains to Palestinians, the reason why I don't think it's inferior over the one another is that inferiority is a very dangerous and treacherous language to utilize, especially when there are hundreds of thousands of dead and wounded people that are in the crosshairs of Israeli violence.
I think that it works. If this is a semantics issue,
I mean, it's not semantics to say they're inferior and therefore if they get genocided, then I don't care. Cry me a river. That's not semantics.
And if like me saying inferior, if you think that that's dehumanizing or problematic.
Yeah, it's pretty dehumanizing to say that you don't care about a group getting genocided. Yeah, I will go there. I will say that. Yeah, it's probably pretty dehumanizing. Yeah. Wow. Who would have thought? Who would have figured?
Then I don't necessarily completely agree, but I can see where you're coming from.
Well, the reason
I would say worse, or you could replace that with any other word that is just like not as good as.
Yeah.
But of course, that doesn't represent.
But even
the
then,
people,
it doesn't
each
matter because
individual
then
person.
there's something that's better, right? The
Sure,
problem
there
is
is.
American culture or like American actions are not necessarily better. That's my point.
They
On
are.
the basis of like, on the basis
It's not
of
even a question.
what?
If you have a country and a culture that allows somebody to get killed for their sexual orientation, that is a worse culture than a culture that doesn't.
I think that
There's literally there's no other way to look at it.
there's something. So here's the thing. There's something that we do in the United States of America or in the Western
I
world.
mean, I can't believe I have to say this. Something got stuck in my teeth. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of what culture is. You cannot take one element that exists within a culture, right? The broader culture. Damn. You cannot take that single element that exists within a culture, the broader culture, and then say this element means that the whole culture is X, the whole culture is Y, Z. Homophobia existing within a culture does not mean that it defines the entirety of the culture, because culture is everything that surrounds us in our everyday lives. Okay? There is a very fundamental misunderstanding of what culture as a concept is.
Especially that creates this veneer, this aesthetic that we are somehow morally more progressive and more superior than other countries. I'll give you an example of
Sure. Yeah.
I can talk about like gay rights in general, but beyond gay rights, one thing that I could talk about especially is for example, slavery, right?
Sure.
We often talk about gulags and slave labor being done in the USSR, in the Orient.
Yeah, we do. Rightfully so.
And like all the way over there,
you
and how
brought it up
damaging that
earlier.
is. Whereas like
Being
slavery,
used now in Saudi Arabia.
yeah, exactly.
sure.
Whereas slavery is literally codified in the American Constitution under the 13th Amendment. It's just that slavery is appropriate as a mechanism of punishment for those who have done crimes. Another great example of this is bribery, right? We often look at like the barbaric nature of like Pakistani society or Indian society where bribery thrives.
sure.
There's so much corruption. It's bribery.
Polish society.
We have codified bribery under
Was it lobbying?
Under legal terms. Exactly.
Right.
Lobbying.
Okay. So I see your point of view, but I don't agree with you about the slavery point. They used to take black people's teeth out of their mouths so they would give them to white people. We don't do that even to prisoners.
No, I know, but it's still, but slavery is still an
under-
inhumane practice, right? Like you understand that, you agree with that.
I do, but I'm saying that
Right.
the level and the severity of like the American like transatlantic slave trade is like several measures of worse than the way that prisoners are treated here.
Of course.
Yeah.
No, chattel slavery is a unique evil, and every single historian will agree with you on that front, that many cultures have practiced slavery throughout time, none of which as uniquely evil as chattel slavery, because there is obviously a like scientific racial aspect to it in terms of like indentured servitude. Indentured servitude, for example, did not mean that like your next of kin was also enslaved in a similar fashion, whereas chattel slavery is different because if you're black, that means you are inhumane. It means you're inferior. And the point I was going to make is that, ironically enough, whether you recognize it or not, the exact same arguments and sentiments were expressed towards black people during chattel slavery in an effort to justify their continued enslavement, that they were inferior.
Can you elaborate on that? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Black people were perceived in an effort to continue in American culture, in American society, in the Western world, in an effort to continue the dominance of black people, in an effort to continue their subjugation, the Americans, or at least like people in positions of power, were like, we need a way to make this appropriate, to make this justifiable, to make this permissible.
Oh,
Because,
I mean, like,
because otherwise, if people start recognizing that these are human beings and not simply fucking capital, not simply, animals or something even worse than animal, then they're gonna start feeling bad, and people are gonna fuck up the bag.
It isn't new, right? It's not new. It wasn't the succession of kings back in the day. It was the divine succession of kings.
No, yes and no. So the reason why I'm saying this, because we both recognize the uniqueness of chattel slavery.
You're saying that there is a religious justification that was created so it could be justified that you could do this.
I'm not even talking about the religious justification. No, I'm talking about scientific.
Like a moral one?
Scientific justification.
Like eugenics.
Yes, eugenics. Which is now seen as a false science, as pseudoscience that was specifically created and designed in an effort to look at this racialized form of violence and justify it. And in that process at the time, or rather the reason why they went to that justification was because, if they were to do this on religious boundaries or on ethnic boundaries, as they had done previously in previous societies, whether it be like the Romans or the Greeks or any other form of like indentured servitude that was practiced in other yes and no.
Sorry,
so the reason why I'm saying this, because we both recognize the uniqueness of chattel slavery.
I'm gonna throw in an example for us in a second. You'll see.
You're saying that there is a religious justification that was created so it could be justified that you could do this.
I'm not even talking about the religious justification. No, I'm talking about scientific.
Like a moral one?
Scientific justification.
Like eugenics.
Yes, eugenics.
Which is
now seen as a false science, as pseudoscience that was specifically created and designed in an effort to look at this racialized form of violence and justify it. And in that process at the time, or rather the reason why they went to that justification was because, if they were to do this on religious boundaries or on ethnic boundaries, as they had done previously.
I mean, that sort of slavery, I'm not sure if you could make an argument that it's so unique, considering that in Romania, Roma people were being enslaved in a pretty similar way.
In previous societies, whether it be like the Romans or the Greeks or any other form of like indentured servitude that was practiced in other cultures and other civilizations, you could not engage in the continued dominance of black people that way, because what if they become Christian, right? Or when you bring black people here, they learn the culture. They can
I'm pretty sure the Roma people couldn't just become Christian and free themselves of the slavery in Romania that way.
They can,
but I have to look into it deeper.
Integrate into society inevitably. So in order to create this like continued dominance, they sought out the scientific, in air quotes, the pseudoscientific understanding of black inferiority, African inferiority. Their culture is barbaric.
I think, are you trying to draw a parallel between like the eugenics argument for like subjugating black people and my argument for saying that like the like a religious theocracy is inferior? Is that kind of like where you're going?
Where I'm going is that in order for Western cultures, in order for Western nations to continue their dominance over other nations.
But he's just gonna skirt over the fact that he said that he wouldn't care if Palestinian people would get genocided. I think that's a pretty important detail to go over. No? Hello, Moosewatcher123. Welcome to the I Love Lucy Day. That's right. You should not be white on the I Love Lucy Day, okay? Of all days, the I Love Lucy Day is one day when you do not want to be white.
States there is a direct through line of creating an air of inferiority while simultaneously destabilizing these places in an effort to maintain their underdeveloped status, which oftentimes will result in people behaving in more violent manners.
If you fuck with people, they're not going to like it.
Yes.
I agree with you. I think that's very true. Absolutely. I don't really think that there's really much of a disagreement there. I think that like absolutely that's what's happened. But if I'm looking at it from like my point of view,
from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Also remember, clip it. Go to President Sunday's chat and say that today is the I Love Lucy day. So he has to raid me, okay? Guilt him. Guilt him into raiding me. Or whatever. Guilt him. It works. Jesus Christ, Moose Watcher.
I do think that like the culture.
Okay, we're gonna
to the culture of the country that they immigrated to.
Well, two generations later,
and generation by generation,
people.
that changes rapidly.
Well, I mean, you're talking about like, you know, the way that one person is like 2 generations later. Of course, I'm not going to be like my grandfather. I'm sure you're not either.
Yeah.
Of course, people change over time. But
Yeah,
I'm
so
saying that if you take people from a
You're
culture,
like your grandfather.
that's going
You're the
to- those
carbon
are going
copy
to
of
be
your
their
grandfather.
values. That
In
is
fact.
their values. Now, will that change over time based off of where they're at? Absolutely, it will.
You're a
Of
carbon
course it
copy
will.
of your
But
grandfather.
it's not like a switch. It's not some like switch like somebody just comes over somewhere and they're just completely different.
Yeah, but ultimately,
so-
second generation, it changes. So like their next of kin that is born on U.S.
Yeah.
soil with the same rights and same responsibilities, like ultimately exhibit the exact same outcomes regardless.
Okay, let's
New
continue.
information. They're not Palestinian Authority. They were right. Hamas did win. Seemingly no ceasefire exists. Like it doesn't happen, and then they send another.
Okay, enough.
Okay.
I mean, far.
So we've watched this. It looped, etc. Now we're gonna watch the other debate.